Well, there you have it, Phoenix Suns fans. There you have it. The end of game 4. Now, it's not the end of the season. It is, we still got one more game, right? But the Phoenix Suns lose game 4 at home, 127 to 109. Let's talk about it.
Kevin Durant delivers. Gorgeous move for Bradley Beal.
Personally, I feel like that brother needed help.
Devin Booker with the clutch three.
All right. Just so you know, it's 12:42 Central Standard Time right now. And not only was that the most boring game, it is freaking late, man. And I'm not only angry at the Phoenix Suns for the way that they played tonight, I'm very upset with them for all season long making me stay up for terrible basketball. Game 4, guys. Shout out to Ashton. Ashton's not here with us. He is at the game. He actually saw all of that in person. So Ashton and our father, they went to the game tonight and they got to see that monstrosity. Cooper jumps in here in the chat, says, I just can't at the moment. We're going to talk about it, man. And you know what? I think anger for me is out of the window at this point. You know, you're watching the game and you're like, but here's the thing. You can be angry, but then for me, you kind of just gotta, what helps me cope and what helps me figure out, my anger is just like, what happened? Right? Like, that's kind of this. I recommend you to tune out. If this loss is really bothering you, I need you to tune out the haters. You probably need to jump off Twitter for a bit. You probably need to jump off social media for a bit because social media is going to have its heyday with this one. Kevin Durant, 36 years old. Devin Booker has a contract extension that doesn't start till next year. And Bradley Beal, no trade clause. That big three most likely is staying together. And this sucks. This sucks. Being up 2-0 in the finals was tough, and then losing the finals was tough. Getting demolished at home by Luka game 7 was tough. This is getting swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves is up there. Yeah, it's up there, man. And so here's my thing. Okay? Let's jump into this. I can't be mad. I can't be too mad at these players. And I'm just kind of talking about Beal, Book, and KD. I feel like the system that they're in is not meant for them to succeed. The KD that, we know what KD can play up to, and we just haven't seen that. And we know what Beal can play up to. We know what Book can play up to. And, that they're in a system coached by a coach that just doesn't fit well for them. And we heard some fire Vogel chants tonight at the game. And I think that's right. You can't do this and you can't go back and run it back with Frank Vogel. You just can't. He had a lot of say into the players that were coming on board. Nurkic being one of them. Drew Eubanks being another. He wanted those guys, and they have just not panned out. And to me, I think it's a fireable offense not playing Bol and giving him enough minutes in this series. You did tonight, and ironically, it was probably the best this team looked in terms of energy is when Bol was out there on the court, and I really like what he provided. I would love to see Bol Bol out there, but it just doesn't matter anymore, guys. The season's over. But it also would be the funniest thing, and it would be so on par for this team to somehow win and go to Game 7. But, I mean, never been done before in the history of the NBA. If anything, I'd be mad at them if they won Game 4. Because then that means we have to drag this out a little bit. Like, we're down, we're done. Just let it be, right? Just let it be. But on the other hand, if they fight and they force like Game 6, you know, they win 2, that they force Game 6, then you're kind of going out swinging. Whatever, man. This it was, you know, you're expecting something different, and this team kind of just did the same thing that it did Game 1 and Game 2. Came out a little bit competitive, lost steam, had a really bad ending of the second quarter, and in the third quarter the Timberwolves went off, and it was tough because I felt like the Suns actually had things go their way in that first half. First quarter, you're shooting 15 free throws, you're getting to the line, but you're still down at the first quarter. That's kind of when I knew, I was like, the writing's on the wall with this one, because anything that's going our way, and if we are still down, there's something systematically wrong with this team that is not going to help us win this game. We saw it with Game 2 when Karl-Anthony Towns was in foul trouble. And, you know, this team and Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards only combined for 7 points in that Game 2 of the first half. We were only up by a point. And that's just, you know, you got to take advantage. And this team just can't take advantage. They just can't they can't gel. They can't operate really well, which is kind of bizarre to think because they won 49 games this year. And it just seems like Charles Barkley was right. You know, it was just, the playoffs is a different atmosphere. It's a different step. And for a team that won 49 games together, and for a team that played fairly well when they were on the court together, a sweep is kind of out of the question. I mean, losing in 6 is up on par for this team. But to be swept is a complete embarrassment. It's a complete disaster, from players to coaches, from front office to the owner. It's really remarkable, and just how devastating this whole situation is, and how much the Suns have invested in this team, and to not win one playoff game if we do in fact get swept and this is all over on Sunday. This is bizarre. This is disappointing. And, you know, this sucks, man. This is not where we should be. I mean, it's one thing to say if one of these guys were injured and we were dealing with injuries, but this is not the case. We are available. Everyone is here. And everyone has been equally disappointing. Devin Booker has been outplayed. Might just lose his spot on the USA team to Anthony Edwards. Rightfully, probably should. Kevin Durant looking like, you know, but here's the thing. Okay, so let's break down these players, right? So Kevin Durant, you have to play him a certain way. And he has to have a certain offense around him that complements him and gives him his best shot. And that's just not the case right now. And I think it's just a terrible mismatch with Frank Vogel. And that gets me thinking about Matt Ishbia, because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Matt Ishbia and, you know, pointing the finger on him and putting the blame on him. I'm really, compared to what the Phoenix Suns had a few years ago, pre-Matt Ishbia, I think in my mind has done what he can in terms of doing his best to give this team a winning chance at an actual championship. I think probably the first wrong move he's done in his ownership is probably hiring Frank Vogel, pairing him with a set of players that they do not match. They do not complement each other. And James Jones, I would point the finger at James Jones too. He's responsible for putting the players on the court, choosing this team. And, you added Isaiah Thomas at the end of the season. You added Ish Wainwright at the end of the season. We're not seeing either of those players, but we never saw a point guard. Got to give credit for adding Royce O'Neal, but, not adding a point guard is what really we've talked about all season long. And it's hurting this team. There's just so many issues, right? Those are kind of the most glaring ones, like wrong coach, no offensive flow. So then your 3 offensive players are out of flow and they're not playing like their usual self. And no point guard, because all these players feed off of a point guard that sets them up, that sets that pace. I'm terribly disappointed with Yusuf Nurkic. I think he's been outplayed and just completely out-schemed in this series. It's been a disaster. And the Suns made some sort of run at the end of this game. And it was like a 15-point lead. And usually, we're telling you 15 points isn't that much in the NBA, but for some reason tonight, a 15-point lead, a 15-point deficit felt like a 30-point deficit. It was just bizarre. And I feel for the city of Phoenix right now because it feels like they've sat through this for the past 3 years. But I would say like the finals, you're sort of proud that your team made it that far. But definitely last year with the Nuggets. And then now, and the year before that, obviously with the Mavs. And then now you're sitting, you have a game 4 game where you're potentially going to be swept and you're going to go home. But, there's not really much to be said. This was a utter meltdown in all facets of the game. And our players are playing out of their schemes. They're playing out of their comfort. They're led by a coach that, honestly, I think he just has zero clue on how to play these guys. Just no grasp on his players. And I think Bol Bol's your first example in a long line of other examples that we can give you about how Vogel just has no idea what to do with this team. So this is disappointing. But if you've been watching all season long, and if you see this team play like this, you've seen them play like this all season long. So nothing comes as a surprise with this team, with the way that they played in this series and what they've done. It's literally all the worst and terrible and bad things that happen all season long have come to fruition in one series, and we've relived it every single game. Hats off to the Timberwolves. Definitely don't want to forget to mention that. They're definitely deep with their bench, with their players. They got talent. I still don't think that, they're better. I got to be careful with my words there. I personally still don't think that they would. I wouldn't. I got to be careful because, I'll just say it. I don't think they're better than the Suns. And I know that's wild to say because they're up 3-0. But the Suns are clearly a better team, but the Timberwolves are executing, and credit to them for doing that. And that can be the case in sports where the better team loses. We've seen that so many times, but I'm not going to say that the Suns are losing this series and the Timberwolves are not winning it because it's completely opposite, right? Like the Timberwolves have won this series and the Suns are losing it, right? But there are parts, the players are there for the Suns to actually be contenders. But if you watch the game of basketball, it's much more than just having a couple of stars on your team. Defense, shooting, rotations, bench, timing, runs, timeouts. That all comes to play. And right now, the Suns aren't doing any of that. Like, they are just out of sync right now. And the body language of this team is just completely out of sync. The body language of this team is like a funeral. There is no one that can get this team moving like the way and I tweeted about it a couple of games ago, or I think it was like a couple of games towards the end of the season. But just how sad it is that a guy like Isaiah Thomas being added to this team a couple of weeks left to go in the season becomes the immediate vocal leader to this group. Tell me how bad your chemistry is without telling me how bad your team chemistry is. That a free agent that hasn't played in the NBA in a while comes along and is now the guy that's bringing your team together. That's bad. That's bad. And I think all of these players need each other. I think all of these players need someone. Bill needs someone. Book needs someone. Kevin Durant definitely needs someone to get to that next step and to win. And right now, we're a coach away. We're a player away. But also too here, the ultimate goal is always to win a championship. Yes. But I think if you're a Suns fan, you could definitely be excited about this year. But to say that we were going to win it all, again, you want that to happen. That's the goal. That's the dream. That's what they practice, and that's what they play the game for. But you had to be realistic. It was going to be tough if it was going to be done in 1 year. But this is kind of just the realism. And I love what Richard Jefferson said on the broadcast, saying, usually teams don't get it in their first year. These lineups, these stars coming together, they don't get it. Second year, it looks a lot better because then they realize what they're missing and they channel that and they filter that and they attack it in the draft and the free agency and they get a better team. But man, it feels like we were eliminated. But we still got one more game to go. I mean, there is a 0.2% chance that the Suns can come back and win this series 4-3. But god dang, that's like water into wine miracle territory. That's like, fish and loaves miracle, part in the Red Sea kind of miracle that needs to happen, because this team has shown nothing. Like, that's the crazy thing, right? Like, when you are down in a series, usually there's like one or two things you could take away, or maybe there's like one or two games where you're like, man, we almost had him. No, none of these games have been close. And this game wasn't even close for any part of it. The Suns, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they ever led at any point of this game. Maybe when they tipped the ball off. But they've been outplayed, out-hustled, and they're set up to lose at tip-off. I could tell you what I would want to see the next game. I would say, man, go guns a-blazing. Let's shoot this ball and die by the three. We're a team of shooters. Let's go all out. Because Nurkic, this series is not for you, my friend. And I love you. And I'm thankful. But you are out of your league with this one. Get Bol in there. Match that height with Rudy Gobert. Kevin Durant playing the 4. Grayson Allen playing the 3. Devin Booker the 2. Bradley Beal the 1. And you got Eric Gordon coming off the bench. Royce O'Neal coming off the bench. That's if I'm Coach Vogel. If I got the coaching shirt on, I'm saying, guys, we're down 0-3. We're going out on our own terms. And we're not going to go out thinking that this way that we've been doing it the past 3 games is going to somehow win us a game. And I'm talking about Nurkic at the 5, Eubanks getting rotated in. No. Something needs to change, and there wasn't actually enough change tonight to make it happen, and that's probably one of the biggest reasons why they lost again. There wasn't any adjustment. I didn't see an adjustment after being down 0-2. There needed to be some sort of change, and there wasn't. That's the crazy thing. So Frank Vogel rightfully got the chance tonight. Fire Vogel. I heard it on my TV. I was joining it. Ashton could probably tell us about it on Sunday. He was like, yeah, I was cheering myself. Couple of things here. We got a Wolves fan in the chat. Congratulations to your team. Suns a poverty franchise in the luxury tax. I mean, you're not wrong. If you're looking to get a reaction out of me, I mean, Suns haven't won a championship ever, so we all know that. And yes, we are in the luxury tax. So you just all told us that 2 + 2 = 4. I bet you're very proud of yourself. And the Wolves are up 3-0. That's probably what you're going to tell me next, right? That's all I got to say, guys. This is disappointing. This sucks. This hurts. But with the way the past 3 games have gone, kind of, writing's on the wall with this one. But shout out to Ashton again. He was at the game and he got to experience all of that in person. So he'll probably talk about that a little bit on Sunday. But game 4, guys, Sunday, there's a 0.1% chance that the Suns can maybe flip it around and get it going. And I'm not going to hold my breath out for that. But yeah, man, this is tough. I'm not going to talk off-season stuff. Like, we'll get into that. What the Suns can or cannot do. That's a whole nother conversation another day. But right now, not really angry, just disappointed. And I don't want to say that you want to break up the big 3 because they won 49 games. And a lot of teams would love to win 49 games. But I think this team does need a better offensive-minded coach to complement its better offensive players. And you need a point guard. I think if you do 2 of those things, you're not that bad of a team. That's all I'm saying. But that's it, guys. It's 104 for me. I don't live in Arizona. So Ashton lives in Arizona. I don't live in Arizona. It's 104 for me. And I stayed up too late watching bad basketball. So be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, and we will see you guys game 4. We will go out guns a-blazing if it is game 4. But we'll see. We'll see you guys next time. Go Suns, as always.